Michael, so good to have you here with us today. And we have been touting you as our youngest farmer. Probably, we are in the warehouse. Apologies for that. That should be it for the rest of the day. But we are in the warehouse, and no, we're happy to have you, youngest farmer, newest farmer, and we want to hear kind of what's brought you to being a farmer and an urban farmer specifically.
Yeah, well, I guess for how I got into farming, I mean, I've literally since I was a child been growing vegetables. My family had a big plot in our backyard and greenhouse and raspberry bushes and rhubarb and apple trees and everything. So I've always been, growing food. And then, as time went on, I went to university and did stuff, and I still do work related to that, but I also wanted to do more work that I felt could have a broader impact and maybe a bit more of a real impact in some cases, because agriculture is like the foundation for our world. It affects our health, it affects our mental health, it affects our society, our transportation, it affects everything. So it's like the foundation to society. And so there's obviously a lot of space for an impact if you do things well versus if you do things poorly. So there's a lot of bad agriculture out there. And so I want to try and do some good agriculture to promote, not only health for us, but also health for the environment and ecosystems and the soil. And so that's kind of why I wanted to get into farming. And then how is just, I started farming. I went out to BC for a little bit and worked on some farms out there. And then after that, I came back here and eventually wanted to get into farming. But as land is expensive, obviously, and I'm a young, broke person, not broke, but poor, I can't buy land. So that's where the urban farming aspect comes in, because it's the way to farm without having the ownership of land. So it's more easier to get into. So I talked with Rod and some other urban farmers in Calgary, and eventually Dennis, who was the founder of Dirt Boys, was looking for someone to take over. So I've taken over this year, and that's kind of it's gone from there. So
right on. You mentioned there's some bad farming out there, and yeah. When I talk about that topic, 25% of our greenhouse gas emissions are attributed to some of that bad agriculture. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do that can be done better. I'm curious what that means for you specifically.
Yeah, so, I mean, some of the ways in which agriculture has been bad is, I mean, obviously there's a lot of land clearing that goes on. So not as much in Canada, and well, what I'm about to say, but like burning down forests and clearing rainforests and stuff like that, that happens all over the world, other places. Here we also destroy the land in different ways, but so there's a lot of just destroying land, which releases a lot of carbon dioxide, which isn't always accounted for in those statistics. So there's that aspect of it, and there's also the aspect of just degrading soil with bad practices like tilling, using chemical fertilizers, which will degrade your soil over time, stuff like that. And then there's also the part where so the counter to that would be more regenerative forms of agriculture. So like no dig, for instance, which is what I try and do. There's low till or no till, which a lot of different people try and do. And those are all different ways to improve soil health, to reduce your impact on the ecosystem, working more within the confines of the landscape that you're in, rather than breaking it down and constructing it up as your own, plot of thing. And then the other aspect of bad agriculture is transportation is a huge part of it. Moving product around is a major thing. Like anytime, you buy peppers or mangoes or bananas in the winter, those are coming from not Canada, obviously. Maybe the peppers, but the rest of it is not. So it's all getting transported all over the world by ships, by boat, by plane sometimes. So that's another aspect, and that's where buying local obviously is a major part of it, because you're reducing that transport aspect. You're also doing a lot of other benefits for yourself, with like eating food that's grown in your area. You're getting, you know, the positive nature of your space as opposed to somewhere else. So those are some of the points.
Yeah, nice. So I'm going to move on to our next question, and then I might open it up for any clarifying from all that are here. Yeah, what do you grow, raise, or make from your farm?
Yeah, so most of what I grow, so I have kind of two different sections of stuff that I grow. So there's the stuff for YYC Growers and then the stuff for my own smaller CSA. So for YYC Growers, it's more of a limited crop selection. Tends to be a lot of different greens, and then some smaller root crops like radishes, turnips, beets, stuff like that. And then the greens are, you know, lettuce, tatsoi, spinach, arugula, all those kinds of things. And then for my smaller CSA, I try to do a much bigger variety. So I have all of those things, plus, you know, carrots, potatoes, some tomatoes, like collards, broccoli, you know, stuff like that. Kind of more variety. And then, you know, as time goes on, I want to try and, wherever I can, integrate other more unique things like Jerusalem artichokes, for instance, which I just got from Rod today. So things like that as well, but you know, that all comes with time. The plot that I grow my CSA mainly on is going under huge renovation this year. It's completely changing from what it was previously, so there's a lot going into improving it over time. So it's in a process right now. Yeah.
I'm curious about some of the, I mean, you're making it sound pretty easy, going through a process. What does that mean in real time for you?
So I'm transitioning it to a no-dig plot, which is the kind of agriculture that I aim to practice, which is like as much minimal soil disturbance as possible. You know, not turning your soil over, not tilling it over, just, if anything, just doing a bit of cultivation on the very surface, and using a lot of compost. But I also, that plot in particular has a lot of quackgrass in it, which is always fun to remove. And you have to dig that out. There's no way to get it out otherwise. Yep. So for me, this season has been digging out mountains and mountains and mountains of roots from my plot, getting all of those out and tossing them out to the side. And then once the majority are out, just laying down my compost and my mulch pathways and just creating that permanent bed system. So the beds are always going to be there. I'm always going to leave the roots of the crops that I take out. So like lettuce, for instance, I'm just going to cut it down, leave the roots in to help create that structure in the soil. And over time, doing all of that will improve the structure and the quality of the soil. So that's kind of the long-term process. But the short-term is getting rid of a lot of those weeds, laying the foundation, and then keeping that foundation maintained.
I got two follow-up questions there. One is, would you enjoy some volunteers coming out helping you with some quackgrass?
Of course. I've had a couple, and one of them's done pretty okay. One did, you know, not as good, but yeah, some volunteers are always great.
My partner Jolene is the queen of quackgrass removal, so I might share her with you if we can set that up.
Yeah.
The other one is I'm just really curious who's been inspiring you in terms of the no dig and the permanent beds. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's two people that I would say are really my inspirations and people that I look up to. One of them would be Charles Dowding. He's in the UK. He's kind of the main, I don't know, not founder of No Dig, but he's one of the main people who started doing it. And he ran a full-scale farm. Now he's kind of more retired, but not really. He runs his own little small plot where he does a lot of really, really good informational videos and, you know, posts and all that stuff. So if you ever want to look up No Dig stuff, Charles Dowding is fantastic. He's obviously in a different ecosystem or a different climate than we are because he's in the UK. So it's a little bit different. So some of his practices, you know, you can't always mimic here because we have a bit of a different system, but the general idea, the general principles he outlines really well and works with really well. The other person, which is a more similar climate to us, so you can, you know, mimic what he does a lot more, would be Richard Perkins. He's in Sweden and he's got a fantastic huge integrated farm with animals, plants, grazing techniques, all of it, all coming together. Yeah, and he does a lot. He's been really good as well. Again, he does a lot of, information videos and posts and stuff like that. His book, I have his book over here. I can show you guys. Regenerative Agriculture. It's a fantastic book. If I can find it. Maybe I can't find it right now, but it's somewhere. Regenerative Agriculture is his book. It's great.
I'm glad you have that one, because I was about to order it in the midst of COVID, but I didn't. So now we'll just create a little bit of a library sharing platform as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Before we move to the kind of what's the most satisfying thing, I'm going to open it up just if anyone else has a question that they are curious about your farming or what you're growing or how this works into your life or anything.
Do you use like greenhouses to grow all year round?
Wish. No. So as an urban farmer, I don't really have the luxury of being able to do greenhouses most of the time, because a lot of my plots are obviously in people's backyards. They're small, and like there are ways you can do cheap, really easy, quick greenhouses. But ideally I want something that's a little more sturdy, especially with the weather that we have and the wind. And so that usually means a bit more of an investment. And depending on the plot, I mean, a lot of people, I may only have a plot for a few years, and then somebody might want to, have it back and do their own thing. So greenhouses are a little bit tougher because of that reason.
So when you say your plot, like how much land are you managing?
In total, I'm not sure how much I have in total. I think it's somewhere around a quarter, a third, maybe a little bit more, somewhere around that of an acre in total. But that's spread out amongst, 8 different places.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So 8 different plots and but a quarter to a third of an acre.
I think around that, yeah.
And are you looking for more space? Like how does one get involved with that?
Yeah, so I think YYC Growers has a donation page as well, but you can just get in contact with me. And generally I prefer, to make it worth my time, I need a large plot. Obviously I can't do a million small ones because that's way too much driving around and stuff. But yeah, people just reach out, say like, hey, I've got, this yard that I don't use, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll just check it out, talk with them a little bit about how things will work and what we do and everything like that, and then kind of move forward from that. I'm actually probably getting one for sure, maybe a second new plot this season that people have contacted me about. So I'm always open to new plots, but yeah.
So sorry for joining late, but I'm excited that I was able to catch a little bit of this.
Yeah.
Question is, what's the agreement with those plot owners? What does it usually look like? That's one question, and then the second question is this too small of a plot? Is it or is that the right size? It's kind of like a condo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that too small, or is that?
That looks like an all right size. It looks like there's a lot of buildings, which might, depend on how the sun plays, might work.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. The agreement wise, it kind of varies a lot by the different people. Some people don't want anything. They're just happy to donate the plot and, have it be used. Some people, like there's one smaller plot I have that I gave them half off in my CSA share. So they get some vegetables for a little bit of a discount. There's one plot that I pay for the water that I use at. And then the really big plot that I run in partnership with a church, I do like the church's landscaping. So I like cut their grass and trim their trees and stuff like that. So it all kind of varies based on the people. Some people don't want anything. Some people want some vegetables, whatever.
Yeah, I've found the same thing, but a lot of times it is just a handshake, which I think is a beautiful, is such a beautiful part of the urban farming landscape, and it really does showcase the fact that we have beautiful, generous, trusting people in our cities still, and I think that that's something that I have loved as an urban farmer, and loved to continue to build that ecosystem here with YYC Growers as well. Like it's incredible. Yeah, I see Dirk put up a gift economy, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna jump into that final question, Michael. So what do you find the most satisfying thing about farming?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it kind of comes back to being able to do something positive, like growing good food, but in a way, like the growing good food part is great. Like I love to give you guys good food, but for me, it's more about the way I'm growing it and how I'm growing it and the effects that that has on the ecosystems and on the people that eat that food. So for me, the satisfying part is being able to have a farm run and being able to see it do well and the soil improve and the people who eat the food like the food and be happy and healthy. So that's what I like the most.
Yeah, there's some deep satisfaction there for sure. I'm going to open it up again. If anyone has any other curiosities for Michael and his no-dig gardening.
Let me see. There's a few other ones. I don't really know of any in Calgary. I don't know if Rod, if you know of anybody else in Calgary.
Just, I mean, not in terms of vegetable gardening. I think
Yeah.
it's a very difficult transition to make to a completely no-till system. But I think, yeah, we want to support you, Michael, to make it happen because we need to feature this as an option.
Yeah.
But lots of beef cattle kind of situations where they're using kind of a no-dig and a rotational grazing situation. There is Jean-Martin Fortier from Quebec who does the permanent beds, and he's really been advancing in his no-dig kind of perspective as well, just recognizing that it's such an ecosystem health and builder, and that's where all of the nutrition comes from as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know about any in Calgary, but there are a lot of other ones worldwide. Like I know, I can't think of the names off the top of my head. I'd have to maybe look them up. But there's some in Germany and some in France that I keep tabs on. Richard Perkins, the guy that I was talking about earlier, he's actually doing this year a farm tour around all of Europe, looking at a bunch of different farms, and quite a few of them I think he goes to are no-dig farms. So he'd be a good place to check and see some of the ones on his list. There's one in Luxembourg that's I can't remember the name of it, but that's a big, good one as well. But yeah, there's quite a few out there. And yeah, Jean-Martin, he does no-dig with like very minimal tillage, I believe. But he also does a really integrative approach with like hedgerows and interplantings and things like that as well, which are really good. Yeah.
One final question, Dirk.
I mean, challenges for me this year at least, because this is the first year I'm taking over Dirt Boys and running it. And the last couple of years it's had, like not the best running because it's kind of been transitioning between different people because Dennis has been trying to find other people to run it. And so the last year in particular kind of didn't go super well. So a lot of the plots were in a rough shape. And so just the difficult part for me is just transitioning those not only to no dig, but also back into like working well, productive, low weed systems. So that's been a bit difficult. And then, I mean, there's always difficulties involved in growing and producing and getting produce out there. Like YYC Growers has to deal with a lot of those problems. When I worked with them for a little bit, it was, it's chaos, especially with COVID happening. It was, big burst of chaos, but a lot of good things came out of it as well. But there's been a lot of, crazy times. So those are just, the normal difficulties that you encounter with doing this kind of stuff. And then, I mean, there's a lot of positive areas for things like growth wise, because in the regenerative space, which YYC Growers and myself are all working towards, we're always about improving our quality of our land that we're working on and our vegetables that we produce. So I think there's a good a good place for that, where you know, in a lot of other systems, the quality is just slowly going down because of all the bad agriculture techniques that they use, whereas we're on the upscale, so we're just getting better and better, hopefully. And so that there, I think, is a big, you know, growth opportunity for everything, not only in, you know, what we produce, but in the people that are interested in what we do. So, yeah.
So I was just wondering what
That's excellent. I like that, you know, some micro needs, quackgrass, up to some macro needs. So spoken like a true farmer. So I'd like to just pause now and give you just a lot of gratitude, Michael, for what you're doing and what you're aiming to do with the no-till. As soon as we get our quackgrass crew up and running, we'll have them out to give you a hand.
Yeah.
And thanks to everyone that came today as well. It always makes it very interesting to kind of hear people's specific questions. And hope the rest of your day goes fantastic.